grateful, we're so thankful. And I know we've got people tuning in from all over the country, the different regions. And also, I know we've got people tuning in from abroad as well, across Europe, Caribbean, and sometimes people tune in from Africa. And we just want to take the opportunity to welcome you tonight. It's such a pleasure to have you. And if you've got any friends that have not yet tuned in, yes, press that link. If you're on Facebook Live, press that link because you can watch us on Facebook Live, and you can watch us through YouTube or from the COGOP, www.cogop.org.uk. So thank you all so much for tuning in. And I know some of you were on Zoom, but please just encourage those that you know to tune in, because we've got so much in store for you. And I believe that God, you know, we have prayed into these topics, and they're open to women and men of faith, and for those of no faith, because these topics, you know, are relevant to so many of us. So we actually decided to follow up from our last month's topic, based on the feedback that we received. You know, so we're back by popular demand to have a part two of We Have Not Been This Way Before. And we have panelists that are here to share their personal stories. And it takes something to actually, you know, come on live, on YouTube, on the internet, and share your personal stories. And we're not here to judge anyone. We're here to celebrate with them and to help to, you know, just take the learning that might be helpful to you or I, or, you know, those in our communities across the world, just to share from their personal stories. So before we even start, I just want to take the opportunity to thank our guests, and you will see them shortly. You know, we have today something slightly different for you. We'll be introducing Money Tips. So Carol Money Tips. So Carol will be coming on. You'll hear a bit more from Carol, that will be sharing with us how we make the most of our finances. And we'll be hearing from our guests, and we'll be talking about singleness, marriage, and divorce, and life, and how we move on, and how we overcome, and how we move on. So that's what we'll be looking at tonight. But first, I just want to just take the time to pay our condolences to the family of Chadwick Boseman. You know, the world is mourning his loss. He passed away on Friday after a battle with colon cancer. And yeah, you know, I just remember him at the age of 43, you know, the legendary black icons that he played, Jackie Robinson, James Brown, on his way to becoming the venerable Black Panther in the Marvel cinematic universe. And I just remember the Wakanda Forever. And, you know, Joe Biden, who's running for the electorate in America, the presidential race, he said the true power of Chadwick Boseman was bigger than anything we saw on screen. From the Black Panther to Jackie Robinson, he inspired generations and showed people that they can be anything that they want to be, even superheroes. So, you know, we just take a moment today just to reflect and to, you know, pay our condolences to the family today. Wakanda forever. And so at this time, I'm just going to hand us over to my co-host. So, I work very closely with Alni Powell. Before I do that, I've been challenged as well that I must introduce myself, not just in terms of what I do in the church. So I'm the National Women's Ministries, Family Ministries Director, but I'm also a senior leader within the NHS. My background's in nursing. I've worked at director level on NHS Trust Board as an Executive Director of Nursing, and I've done quite a lot of other things in my time. So that's a little bit of me. I am married to Bishop Neville Fletcher, and I have 4 amazing children, and I give God thanks for that. So, right, I'm going to pass us over to my co-host for tonight, none other than our dear Alni Powell.
Thank you, Joyce. Good evening to all our viewers. Here we are again, our 4th Women's Connect series. And thank you for joining with us this evening. We look forward to a lively and interesting discussion, and we hope you will find it very helpful. So feel free to send in your questions and relax and enjoy this time together. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Alni. I'm married for 45 years. I've got 3 children and 6 grandchildren. I don't look it, do I? To have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. Anyway, yes, I have 6 grandchildren. I'm trained as a counselor. I mainly do bereavement counseling because I think that's very important, especially during this time. And my profession, I used to work, I'm now semi-retired, but I'm trained as an administrative secretary. I've done most of that during my 30 plus years of working, but my focus is mainly bereavement counseling. And within the church, I work within the women's ministry. I'm very passionate about women and relationships. So yes, so that's me. So I hand over to Sister Joyce.
Thank you, Alni. Great to see you. We didn't plan a colour scheme. Anybody would have thought we planned a colour scheme. But no, great to be with you again. It's we're in a lockdown situation, but God has allowed us to connect with each other, and we just give God thanks. Without any further ado, we're going to be introducing our guest psalmist for tonight. And Alni is going to introduce our guest psalmist for tonight, tell you a little bit about her as we move forward.
Right, yes. We've got Carol. We've got Carol. She's... Sorry. Oh dear, sorry for that. Something.
Yeah, it's Carol Clark.
Yeah.
Carol Clark.
Yeah, Carol is married to Minister Robert Clark, and they have 3 children. She's the founder of Carol Clark Worship Minister, and her passion for the Word of God has enabled her to write a number of Christian choruses. Carol carries a call for prayer and worship and is a prophetic worship leader. She's an ordained minister, and her call to worship ministry has enabled her to lead worship and serve the Church of God of Prophecy as regional worship director, and more recently as corporate worship director. In 2018, she accepted the mandate to lead worship in the USA at the Watchers of 1000 Millennium Reign Conference. Wow. She's also a teacher of the Word, and her passion for writing has enabled her not only to create courses and teach on topics such as worship and prayer, but she has written various curriculum and educational programs for pastors and leaders in Canaan Island, Australia, UK, and USA. Now I introduce to you Carol.
The Lord is my shepherd. He goes before me, defender behind me. I won't fear. I'm filled with anointing. My cup's overflowing. No weapon can harm me. I won't fear. Hallelujah, I am not alone. He is my comfort, always holds me close. He always guides me through mountains and valleys. His joy is refreshing, restores my soul. Mercy and goodness gives me assurance that I'll see His glory face to face, and we sing hallelujah, I am not alone. He is my
Oh, praise the Lord. Isn't that such a beautiful song? I
Amen.
am not alone. Hallelujah. I am not
Amen.
alone. You know, I just let you into a little, when these songs come through, we've had some beautiful psalmists, and we just want to thank Minister Carol. But, I have my service at home first, just listening to the songs and just worshiping God. That's just such a beautiful. We're not alone.
No,
Sister
we're not.
Alni, we're not alone.
We're
We're
not
not
alone.
alone.
No, not. Mm.
What a beautiful song. Thank you to Minister Carol for just sharing that song. And it doesn't matter who we are, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you're going through, what the challenges that you're facing, whether you're of faith or no faith, you are
Mm.
not alone. And we can declare that today and just remind ourselves that we are not alone, that God's Spirit is with us, and it's His Spirit that keeps us through the challenges that we might be facing. Okay, we're going to move to just go into our panelists today, and we're just going to just get them to just say hi to us and just introduce themselves. So we're going to go first of all to Bridget Robinson. She'll introduce herself, say hi.
Hi everyone, Bridget Robinson from Leeds, and it's good to be with you again today. A bit about myself. I'm an operational manager for a charity which based in Leeds but works nationally across the country. Also, I'm a qualified teacher. I'm also a coach. I'm a mother of two men. When I say two men, two big men, and God has been good to me with them. I'm also single mother, been single mother for about 15 years. So have been married, now not married, divorced. But again, like I said, it's been a journey and a half, and it's been a very interesting journey. So be good to share with you tonight and answer any questions that you may have. So kind of that's me. I'm also in the church, but I'm also community. I've got a couple of street names. So people know me as Miss B, people know me as Robbo, people know me as Bridget. So join me tonight, join us tonight as we share with you and you ask questions. It'd be great to be back again with the rest of the panelists. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. So yeah, let's get on with it tonight and let's see where it takes us. It'd be great to carry on and to lead. But also, the song tonight also reminded me that you're not alone. It's about connecting with others. As women, as people, it's time to connect and walk the walk with someone who can share that walk with journey with you, support you, and even support changing the narrative around you as well. So that's what Connect for me is about. So it'd be great to connect. And I'm a people person, and I love talking, walking, sharing, joking, laughing with people. So nice to see you, and to be hearing from you tonight. It'd be great. Yeah. So back to Sister Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Miss B. Miss B, we've got a few names for you now. Miss B and Robbo. Lovely hearing from you, and we'll hear more from Bridget later. Over to Priska, who's going to introduce herself. She's our second panelist for tonight.
Hello, everybody. My name is Priska Nyamukamwandiambira. I'm a mother of four amazing kids, two boys, 35 years and 19-year-old, two princesses, 30-year-old and 26-year-old. I work with the NHS. I'm in management in central London. And I'm just happy to be here. I'm privileged to be here. And I hope when I share my story, it will help one or two women who are going through the same issues. I'm so happy to connect. Connect is the theme. Connect, connect, connect. Don't live in isolation. Don't be an island unto yourself. Connect with others and connect and connect and connect. Thank you, Sister Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you. I think
Carol will be giving us some money tips, and I'm sure many of us would find this session very, very interesting. With the current situation might have impacted many families and their finances, and Carol is here to give us tips how to budget and work within our budget. So over to you, Carol.
Thank you, Elnie. So, good evening, everyone. Again, as I said, I work within finance, but I do have an interest in money, and I think it's so good to have this opportunity just to share with all you, with the ladies and even the men that are on this session, just to think about our finances. You know, I have a background in senior leadership in the NHS finance, and I deal with millions of pounds on a sort of regular basis. We do reporting on a regular basis. But, you know, we have to think about our personal finances. And, you know, whatever we have, whatever God has given to us, we have to think about how we make the best use of those resources. And this year, 2020, has brought many challenges that we haven't encountered before. You know, lockdown as a result of the global pandemic has brought challenges for our mental, our physical, and our spiritual well-being. Some of us have been furloughed. Some of us may have lost jobs or may just have had the time to focus on what we are doing with our money. So the importance of financial management is highlighted as we look at ways of managing our money. And we must remember that God is with us in all aspects of our lives, and He wants us to manage the financial resources available to us. So tonight, I just want to share some tips, some things that I have done personally to help with managing money. And I'm sure there are some things that will resonate with yourselves that you're currently doing anyway. And maybe you have tips that you can also offer and share. So first of all, I just want to talk about the basic principles: income and expenditure. These are the two main categories within personal finance. You know, we need to know what money we have coming in, and we need to know what money we spend in order to effectively manage our finances. Most people are paid monthly, or people may be self-employed, some people may receive benefits. So how do you manage what income and expenditure? How do you look at the income and expenditure that you have coming in? Now, I have a very simple method. I've got a book and a pen that I started off with on my personal finance journey. And I write down all my income, all the money that I expect to receive within a period. So I started doing this about 15 years ago. And I'd work out how much money I was getting each month. And then I would work through how much money would need to be spent. Because having two children and a house to run, a family, it's quite important to be able to manage the resources behind running a home. And it progressed from there. I now have a spreadsheet. So what I say to people is, write down what monthly income you have. And you can also write this down for the year. So you might want to do the basics of using a book and a pen, or you might want to do it on a spreadsheet. And even if you're not familiar or comfortable with using a spreadsheet, learn how to use one, because it's really helpful to list all your income and all your expenses for the month. And I also do it for the year. So on the left-hand side, I have all my expenses, all my bills that are going out, and I will have my income. And across the top, each month of the year. So it starts in January and ends in December. It doesn't work across the financial year. It works across the calendar year. And that then gets totted up. So I know over the next 12 months, roughly, how much money I will have coming in and how much money I will have going out. And at the bottom, there must be either break even, that means your income must equal your expenditure, or a surplus. That means that you have more money coming in and over the money that you have going out. If you have a deficit, so that means you have more money going out than the income you have coming in, obviously you have a problem and you need to start thinking about budgeting. Budgeting is so important. It helps you to plan what you do with your money that's coming in, what you do with your money that's going out. So you need to think about the money that you have in your outgoings, so your accommodation costs, food, transport, what tithes and offering, what money you may want to save. These sorts of things you have to put in your budget plan and think about how much money realistic you will need according to the income and expenditure that you've tracked before. Outgoings must balance within your income. As as our Caribbean relatives and our parents say, don't put your hat higher than your hand can reach. So you've got to make sure that your outgoings must balance within your income. And I know it might sound obvious, but if you don't have the money, you can't spend it. And I think people think that if you just look at that figure hard enough, that God will multiply the figure that's before you. But at the end of the day, we have to work with what we've got, ladies. So if you add up all those expenses and it comes to more than the income, then you've got to think about how you can either reduce your expenses or increase your income. The other thing that a budget planner allows you to do is it allows you to plan for the future. So, for example, what high expenditure would you have in the next 12 months? So we've got Christmas coming up. You might want to go on holiday in 2021 in summer. You have children, you may have children that need school uniform. What I would say to you, brethren, say to you ladies, is look at the amount of time that you have left to reach that goal. So if you're looking at a holiday for the next 12 months, you look at the amount that you need and you divide that by the number of months that you have. So if it's 12 months, you divide it by 12, you put that money aside each month. Christmas is coming up. If it's 4 months, yes, I know, only 4 months time, I think. They haven't got long, but you need to look at how much money you'll need for Christmas, how much money you'll need for buying presents, food, so forth. And then you look at how much you need to save each month to achieve that goal, so that when Christmas comes or when the holiday comes, you're not scrabbling for the money. Don't wait in the holidays for a holiday for 12 months to pass and you then scrabbling for the money. If you want to go on holiday in summer 2021, you must save for it now. So I spoke about the budget and how we need to balance our budgets. So how can we balance our budgets? Sometimes we look at it and it seems so hard. We want to do so many things and we can't find the money sometimes to do it. But you know what? We've got to be positive and we've got to have a can-do attitude. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and God will help you to achieve your goals. It's so important to have goals. So I was thinking about some ways that you can increase your income, and these are some of the things that I know people have done, so they've been tried and tested. One of the ways that you can increase your income is looking at multiple streams of income. You have main income, say from employment or your business or pension, but think about other ways to raise funds. There are some people who sell online, so all those clothes that we have in the wardrobe, some of them we don't wear, or shoes, handbags that we don't need anymore. Look at selling online. You've got eBay or Vintage where you can sell clothes. Amazon, you can be an Amazon seller. How many of us have clothes that we don't wear? Maybe we've still got the tags on them and they've never been worn. You can earn money by putting your clothes out, on these websites, and people bid for them and buy them. Look at your skills. What skills do you have? What can you do that you think may earn money? Now, I've got a friend who bakes all my birthday cakes for me, and she works in the NHS, but on the side, she bakes cakes. So every time we have Christmas or birthdays, she does the baking, and then I pay her. That's additional money, just money in your pocket. You don't know what what that can do. Are you good at braiding hair? I can't braid hair, but I've got friends who can do it. So I asked them to braid the hair for me, braid my hair. And if you're good at braiding hair, you'll be amazed at how many people earn money by braiding other people's hair. And that's a regular source of income that you can achieve. Are you good at sewing? You can sew clothes and sew clothes for people for sale. I know a lot of people now are sewing masks, I was in the market the other day. A lady has just set up a market stall where she's sewing African clothes, and she's just started, she's selling them costumes, she's selling masks, she's selling head ties. So that's something else, something new, something entrepreneurship, some sort of entrepreneurship that you can start. Tuition, you can look at tutoring face to face or online. Is there something you can teach other people? A dress agency. Now, there are people who hire out their clothes. You can hire out your clothes. Have you got a lot of handbags? You can hire your handbags. Some people may want to go on a special occasion. I know we're not going out very much at the moment, but even if someone has to go to a wedding, have you got bags, expensive bags? Some people have some expensive bags that you can hire, that you can just hire to that person for an occasion. Shoes, dresses. Look at what you've got. Look at being more creative with the clothes that you have bought. Learning new skills. There are lots of YouTube videos, and there are college courses that are free sometimes that you can do to learn new skills, and maybe from that you consider a new occupation. Is there a profession that you've always wanted to follow? Is there a job that you've always wanted to do? Now is the time, ladies, for you to think about doing something and doing it now. So those are all ways that you can increase the amount of money, your income. And then on the opposite side, you have to look at ways of reducing your expenditure. One of the big areas of spend is food. We spend a lot of money on food. And when you've got children, you spend even more money on food. That's a big expense going out. And you think about ways of reducing that expense. Plan your meals for the week. Sit down and think about nutritious meals that you can make for every day of the week. And then you do a shopping list and you go to the supermarket using your shopping list. Don't wander around aimlessly, and then when you get to the checkout, you're surprised how much you've actually spent. Think about how much you're going to spend, make that shopping list, and then move on. Another thing you can do is use supermarket own brands rather than some of these labels. Look at the own brands that the supermarkets are doing. Try the product, and if you like it, then you can continue to use those own brands. Cook your own meals rather than takeaways. As I said earlier, look at how much you're spending. Sometimes we're spending £20, £30 a week on takeaways. That's £120 a month, or even more than that. Think about doing your own cooking. Now that we're in lockdown, there's so many opportunities that we have to actually cook our own meals. Transport. Some of us are working from home, and I'm sure we've saved money on petrol. Walk to the shops. Get some exercise rather than jumping in your car. Walk to the shops. Cycle. Do something different that will save money on our transport costs. Gym fees. Find alternative ways to exercise. Rather than going to the gym, you can go for walks. You can do your cycling, as I said, and even Birmingham, if you live in Birmingham, and I don't know if there are other city councils that are doing this, but they're providing leisure centre access for free for their residents. And finally, a lot of us, we like to look good. We want to make sure our hair looks good and our nails, and we just want to look good in general. How can you do that for yourself? Rather than going to a nail salon, can you think about doing your own nails and saving yourself maybe a £20? Every time you save that money, that goes towards maybe your goal for a holiday. Finally, if you need any support, try savings schemes such as we have a Caribbean system of a partner where people join together. And if you want to know more about that, we can give you details. Also, there are credit unions that you can join, which are not established banks, where these are savings banks where you put money in and you save, and then you're allowed to take money out. And if you want more details, either ask us or you can look it up online. If you are struggling to make ends meet, there are organisations that can give you advice. So we've got CAP, which is Christians Against Poverty. There is Step Change. There is Citizens Advice that will give you advice on how to make ends meet. And also moneyservice.org.uk. So hopefully these are some ideas later that will give you food for thought. when focusing on managing your finances. And in the future, we want to look at different topics, go into a bit more detail on different topics that you may be interested in, that will help you to manage your finances and empower us as women and as men, that we can use the tools that God has given us, use those resources to manage our finances more effectively. And I'll hand back now to Joyce and Alni. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Carol. I hope we've all found that pretty useful. And I think one of the reflections that Carol has mentioned is, people's finances, the lockdown, it's had a huge impact. People being furloughed and so on, and we've all got to think about, using our finances in a different way. What are your thoughts on that, Alni?
Yeah, I think that was a very good presentation, and giving us these some good tips. There are some actually that I'm actually doing already, selling on eBay. So for me, that is one way of generating income. And also even say less takeaway. I never really like to do a lot of takeaways. I prefer home cooking. So yeah, those tips was very, very, very good. Very good tips.
And I think as well that a lot of these stores have these schemes where you can collect points, turn your points into cash, those sorts of things. I mean, I've sold on eBay as well. I used to be a seller and on eBay, but you have to have time for that as well. So we all can turn our hands to things, and it's amazing how in this lockdown lots of people have turned their hands to things that they would not normally have done, and realize they've got skills that they didn't realize that they got. So I think it's time to try something new, something that you've never done before. Remember, the theme is we have not gone this way before. Try something new, and maybe it's time for a new career path. Maybe it's time for, it's time to try something new and realize the full breadth of the gifts that God has given to you. And you just never know. We'd want to hear as well if you've tried something new. It'd be great to hear what some of those thoughts are. But we're going to move on now to yes.
Just in addition, Joyce, she mentioned partner. I know that this is something that's been going on for many years, especially with the older generation. That's one way of saving. And I've noticed that even the younger generation, a couple of weeks ago, we were in a discussion and that subject was brought up about, joining a partner. So this is one way as well as, the saving. And you can have it as a family, or because I know within our churches, there's a lot of our brethren who have this type of saving. They prefer to do that than even say going to the bank. So that's a brilliant tip as well. Partner still exists now.
Absolutely, and that's how our elders. That's how they brought their houses. They saved. It's an interest-free way of saving. Get their deposits for their houses and so forth. So bring back the partner. Some of us are still parts of partners. I'm part of a partner, and you just make a sacrifice each month. Pay your tithes first, of course, and you get that depending on how many people are in the partner, and it does help. It's a boost. It's a good way of saving. So all you ladies, let's start creating. We need to create these opportunities for families as well, don't we? So if we've not tried it before, now's the time. Right, it's interesting. Look at the time. Time's really flying, and we've not got the panelists on. So now we're going to bring all of our panelists on. Now, our 4 panelists. Great to see you all. And we're just going to get stuck in because, as we said today we want to hear personal stories. So this isn't what our panelists are going to share. It's not written from a book. It's not something that they've heard. This is real, and that's what we share on Connect Live, is the real deal, things that's happening real. And we're gonna go over to Joanne. So, Joanne, you're going to start us off with just sharing a bit of your stories. And each panelist, they know they've got a limited time, and they don't want me to do this with my glasses, because that's the secret signal. So now you all know. So yes, come on, Joe. Let's thank you first of all. Because we normally see you as Bishopess, and we see the joking side of you, and we see you make us laugh and all of that. But and I'm sure you're going to make us laugh today as well. But yeah, we're so delighted that you could join us as Joe, and just to share your story with us.
Yes, hello everyone. Yeah, it's kind of unusual to be doing this without my wig, but yeah. Well, I'm just going to start off and talk about my journey as a single mom with 4 boys. The last three had special educational needs. They were diagnosed with the autistic spectrum disorder. It started with son number 2, and it was during the 18 to 24 month period. He was saying a few words, and then all of a sudden he stopped. He was attending a nursery, and it was during a visit to the health visitor that I said to her that, he was talking and now he stopped, and the health visitor ignored me. So she told me not to worry about it, and so I left it at that. He was attending a nursery, and they flagged up their concerns, and they said that I needed to see my health visitor, which I did do. And I did ask her, why did you ignore me? And I'm still waiting for a response to that. We had an appointment at the CDC, which is the Child Development Centre, and we went there for weeks, and they came up with a diagnosis with autism. As you can imagine, I've never heard of it at that particular point in time, and I didn't know what to do. So, my first response was to cry, and that's what I did. I just cried. Then I dried my tears, and then I started to look up as much information about autism, read a lot, joined support groups, and with all the information that I gathered, and with the help of CDC, I went into battle mode. I thought, right, we're gonna try and get through this. So I went and looked at special schools for my son and realised it wasn't for him. And so I decided I was going to do mainstream schools. In the nursery, started at nursery school at the age of 3. And by that point, we had a statement through CDC, and working closely with the nursery had a statement. During that time, I had Joshua, because the last 3 are a year apart. I had Joshua, and I thought that he was fine. And it wasn't until Carl went to primary school, in nursery school, they highlighted that there was problems with son number 3. So I had 2 children now with special educational needs. What I did do in my household was routine. It was like a military operation. We got up at a certain time. We had lunch at a certain time. So they could follow what was going on, and you went to bed at a certain time. We had dinner at a certain time. And that's how I ran my household, military operation. During that time, year later, I had son number 4, and it wasn't identified till around that 2-year mark that there was something wrong with him as well. Went to the doctor's surgery, and he looked at Ethan, and Ethan did something, and he said, I think you need to deal with your son. There is something wrong. I was in denial. So we went through the CDC route with Ethan, and they diagnosed him on the spectrum again. The good thing about being diagnosed early was that we was able to get statemented. So they were all statemented when they was at nursery school, which followed them through to primary school, which followed them through to secondary school. It was a very stressful time. I was with the kids, with the kid's father at that time, and it was during all of this, our relationship broke down, so I was left on my own to deal with the 4 boys. It was hard and it was a struggle, but I was determined. In terms of the boys, for me, they were my priority. And the question that I would ask the teachers, can my children learn? Can they learn? And once I found out that they could learn, that was it for me. I was their personal cheerleader. They learned at a slower pace than the other children, but that was fine. I mean, son number 2, I remember they were doing Christmas carols, and I remember his reception teacher telling me that, oh, you know, he wasn't really responsive and he didn't engage. February, picked up my son number 2 from school, and the teacher told me that he was singing the Christmas carols. For me, that was an achievement, and I celebrated that. And that's one thing that I learned to do with my boys, was celebrate each small, big achievement. Because in my house, everyone was normal. It's only when I went outside when I realized the differences. But in my house, we were all normal. And so every time they achieved something, we just celebrated what they achieved. Son number 3, he had learning difficulties on top. And again, I asked that question, can he learn? Yes, he can. So it was really about building their self-esteem and just being their personal cheerleader. Son number 4, he found that he loved books, so he read. When he was at school, when they couldn't find him, they would find him in the library reading books, reading loads and loads of books. I remember when when son number 2 started primary school, he was part-time for a year, which was very stressful. Then when he moved into year 1 and son number 3 joined reception, again, he was part-time for a very long time. And I found the whole situation so stressful. And I remember one time I picked the both of them up from school, and I just broke down because I was asking the teacher, when can he be full-time? When can he be full-time? And they said, oh, just give it a few more weeks, and it just never materialised. And by the time Ethan started, when son number 4 started school, I just gave up and I just said, whatever. I thought, whatever. If he has to do part-time for a year, then so be it. And that first week, the reception teacher told me he can be full-time. So that was a relief for me. During this time, son number 1, I mean, he bared the brunt because most of the focus was on the three boys at that time. But my parents were my rock, and they supported me, and I don't think I could have done it without them, because they stepped in the gap. And they, especially my dad, he would take son number one to the barbers, do all those things that I couldn't do because I was so focused on the three of them. And they're not, my parents are no longer here, but it's good to give honor to whom honor is due. And they were my cheerleaders, they were my rock, and they were my support. And they walked with me in this journey. They were there with me all the time. And I know that I could not have done it without them. During this period, I was on unofficial annual leave from church for a good 13 years. And it wasn't until 2003 that, I gave my life back to Christ again. And one of my prayers was, Lord, heal them. I want them to be healed from autism. But how the Lord answered that prayer was, I saw achievements that I didn't think was possible. That's how he healed them. Because I look at them now, son number one, he's married, brilliant husband, brilliant father, and he's given me 3 grandchildren. And considering I felt guilty because he bore the brunt, being the firstborn and having so much responsibility at that age, and just to see how he is with these kids. And he's the one that tells me he loves me every time he speaks to me. And when every time he speaks to me, he tells me, I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom. Even in texts, I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom. And I'm so honored that he feels that way about me. And because it was a hard upbringing. Son number 2, he went to college. He's just finished his degree course. I picked him up today, actually. He came home, he surprised me, he says, Mom, I'm coming home now. And he's here with me. And he's just finished a degree course. Son number 3, with learning difficulties, he is currently at university and he's about to go into his 3rd year doing animation. It took him an extra year to get to where he is, because he started off doing a level 2 course and we hit a hurdle. They said that he couldn't get into level 3. And I was about to write a letter to say, why are you doing this? But the lecturer saw sense before I got there, and Joshua was able to get into level 3, and he's now going into his 3rd year. I am so proud of him because he's so motivated. He has entrepreneurial skills. And he's so polite. I can't believe he's my son half the time because he has so much manners. And people that know me, I'm a bit cheeky. But he has a brilliant work ethic. He will get to wherever he's getting to on time. I will try and get to a 30-minute journey in 5 minutes, but not son number 3. He will get up at the right time and get there on time, and he's brilliant. He's just a super son. Son number 4, he has achieved so much. When he started secondary school, they put him in the bottom set. I didn't question it. And particularly in English, he really excelled. He kept on going upper group, to the point where when he left school, his English teacher says, why don't you come back and do A-levels? That's how bright he is. He's a writer. He's a very good writer. He's written articles, and I'm amazed at his achievement. He'll be going back to 3rd year for his media degree course. I say hard journey, but what I say is celebrate. Sorry, Sister Joyce. Celebrate your children, no matter what they can do. Don't compare them with other kids. Just celebrate their achievements, because you're building up the self-esteem, and eventually they will fly with the confidence that you've given them by boosting them. These are my few words in Jesus' name. Amen.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Wow!
Wow.
Wow! 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 Okay, we're gonna, yeah, we're just gonna hear the stories, and then we're gonna come into some questions. But thank you for sharing that. No, that was really touching, really, really touching. Thank you for sharing. So, we're gonna go to Priska. Priska, if you,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Thank you, Sister Joy, Sister Arlene. Thank you for allowing me, giving me an opportunity to tell my story. So this is following on to the journey I spoke about last month. Originally from Zimbabwe, came to Britain, came first, then husband and kids followed after. I was married in 1985, and just like all Christian women, my dream was to have an everlasting marriage. My dream was to have a fairy tale marriage. My dream was to have a marriage where no man would put us asunder. I was married for 23 years. It was a long marriage. To the outside world, especially to the church, we were a perfect couple. We were both church ministers, ordained church ministers. We were very financially stable. We were a perfect family. And when you have a wedding, you don't walk down the aisle knowing that at some point the marriage will end. That is not anybody's dream. So when things started to happen, and they started to happen very early on from day one of the marriage, I felt devastated. I felt like a failure. I felt, cheated, because what I thought marriage was a bed of roses. It was going to be a lovely fairy tale. And in hindsight, I can see that there were actually telltale signs, subtle signals from even before the marriage, when we were preparing for the wedding. I can see that things started happening there, with controlling behavior, abusive verbal language, and stuff like that. So we got into the marriage, perfect to the church, but there were issues where, even going to church, we would use separate cars. Those separate, subtle things that, you don't think about, but in hindsight, you see, oh my God, what were we doing? We would go in separate cars. I would go with my girls, he would go with his boys to the church. We, like I said, we're a perfect couple. Things were happening behind closed doors. I would get bruises, I would get abused physically. And because we wanted to keep up appearances and continue to paint a perfect marriage picture, I never disclosed to anyone. I never disclosed to anyone. I was living a single wife life in a marriage. I learned to live as a single woman even before my marriage broke down. I was in denial, to be honest. I was in denial. I wanted to work more on my marriage. I was praying, I was fasting, I was, I was being told to persevere. Culturally, in Africa, uh, domestic violence is, up until recently, was the norm in families. The woman is paid a bride price for. They pay lobola. So it was not, surprising to be disciplined as a woman, because you are bought with money. You are like a piece of furniture that has been put into the house, so you could be disciplined. And with me, violence was even in front of children. It was humiliating, it was shameful. What support did I get from family around me? What support did I get from the church? Unfortunately, I couldn't speak out. I couldn't share with anybody because of the circumstances that I was in at that time. The only people who knew things were happening were my parents and my siblings. And because my father was the national overseer of Zimbabwe, the advice was to shush and keep quiet about it. We don't want it to affect church people. We don't want people to know what is happening. And to make matters worse, I was the National Women's Ministry Director at that time. So the agreement was just to keep quiet. So my journey was a lonely journey in silence. And what sustained me was my faith in God, trusting in God, and divorce as a Christian woman comes with a lot of stigma. It comes with its own challenges. Uh, there are issues, to be encountered of doctrine versus reality. Where doctrine says no divorce, no remarriage, you want to stick to that. You perfectly well know that God hates divorce. So you endure, you persevere, you stay in, you stay put in a difficult marriage. And I did it for 23 years. The environment was not conducive too, because like I said, the culture, my mom would tell me that is what marriages are all about. Marriages are not easy. But where domestic violence is involved, I persevered. I thought it would stop, because when it happens the first time. You get apologized, you get bought chocolate, you get bought flowers, beautiful flowers, and you think it's finished, and it happens again. It's a cycle. So 23 years later, it has happened. So there's a dilemma between doctrine and reality. A national survey conducted on church leaders by the Hartford Seminary a few years ago in the UK found that 25% of women in ministry and 20% of men in ministry have been divorced at least once. And I am a statistic of that, because I was in ministry and I got divorced. I prayed, I fasted, I tried to save my marriage, but it didn't work. It didn't matter that I was a women's ministry director. It didn't matter that I was an ordained minister. Divorce still happened. So what support did I get from the church? As I said, my parents' stance was keep quiet about it. We do not want to demoralize the church, because divorce can affect the wider church community. So divorce for me as a national overseer's daughter was meant to cause humiliation, shame to the family as well as to the church. So the church was not aware of what I was going through. It was a total secret. Whenever I got bruises, I would just skip church. I would just not attend church. And I became an ardent liar. Christian woman, minister. I had to lie my way out of not going to church. I would either be in uni. At that time, I was doing a degree. I would either say I was in uni. Meanwhile, I'm seated at home with bruises all over. Culturally, if I reported to the police, you are reporting to police who are also abusing their wives. So you are just told to go back home, drop all charges, just get on with it. So it was a difficult, lonely journey for me. However, I couldn't, as I said, I couldn't, confide to any church members. There were no structures put in church to mentor young marriages like ours. There were no marriage counselors in church. So even if I wanted to contact someone, I was the national overseer's daughter. I couldn't say it out. I couldn't. I had to keep it a secret. So what did I do? I felt comfortable confiding in non-Christian friends because they were not judgmental. Their advice, though, was, Priska, how can you tolerate this? Just, leave him. But because at that time, divorce was a no go area for me, I stayed put. I didn't want to take their advice. Divorce was totally out of the question. I had no one to turn to, so I walked the journey alone. How did I deal with this? Basically, I just put my trust in God. I would get hits. I would wait for the bruises to go. Then I would go to church. I would lie my way out of it. It was humiliating. It was shameful, embarrassing. And, the stigma that would come out of disclosing at church as well. Stigma comes with shame. It comes with disgrace. It comes with dishonor. It comes with humiliation. So, when divorce eventually happened after 23 years, I want to say thank God I was now in the UK. It was a much better environment, because if it had happened back home in Africa, I don't even think I would have coped with it mentally. But it happened here, and there was a roller coaster of emotions and experiences. As a Christian woman, I felt guilty. I thought I had failed God. I thought I had failed my parents. I thought I had failed my children. I thought I had failed the church. The church in Zimbabwe didn't even know, some of them didn't even know I had divorced. Some of them, most of them got to know about it last month after our Connect series, and yet I had been divorced for 15 years. They still thought I was still married because it was a hidden secret in Zimbabwe. It wasn't mentioned. So I felt, if I disclosed, I would be judged, I would be ridiculed. The questions, I still got questions, even here in the UK, questions, from fellow Christian women on why I didn't try harder, why I didn't stay longer in the marriage. Remember, I stayed in the marriage for 23 years. But the questions still come, why didn't you stay longer? I was being fairly unjudged. Why didn't you pray hard? Did you fast for your marriage? And sometimes I felt like an outcast. And I sometimes, even now, sometimes I feel I don't fit in, because you don't fit in with the single people. You don't fit in with married couples. So in church, you really don't fit in, and you are being, eternally condemned to hell because you have failed God. That's how I feel anyway. And remarriage is condemned as adultery anyway. We know the Bible. So there's been rejection and there's been ruthlessness, mostly from fellow Christian women. I have endured subtle, discreet nastiness, especially from insecure women. You become an instant threat, you become a suspect, and because of that, you learn to be extra careful in how you associate with people. You become extra careful in how you even you just want to preserve your dignity. So it's not been an easy journey as a Christian woman. It came with, with stigma, and some of it never ever goes. It stays with you. Thank God I've got very supportive children. I've been tried to be a good role model to my children. I brewed a bride last year, despite the fact that she grew up seeing domestic violence, but I brewed a bride. That's an achievement. I've tried to show a positive, aspect
Yeah,
of marriage to all my children, and yeah,
yeah,
it's been a success story. Look at me. I've crossed that bridge.
Yeah.
I'm confident in myself. Divorce has brought something good. It has brought. I'm not selling divorce here. I'm not trying to make a hero out of divorce. I'm only telling my story. Divorce in the end. Where I wanted a perfect marriage, where I wanted, a long-lasting marriage, that is not what I was destined for. I learned to really
yes,
assess and review what I wanted. I wanted peace. And at the
Yes.
end of the
yes.
day, it brought
Mm.
peace. It
Mm.
brought
Mm,
confidence. It brought restoration. And it brought renewal. Now I'm at peace with myself. And I'm at
Mm.
peace with everyone. And
Yeah.
that has given me more strength and faith to journey on in my Christian journey. Thank you,
Mm.
Sister
thank
Joyce.
you. Thank you
Wow.
so much for
Mm.
sharing your story. And
Mm.
this is the thing. This is because your story is your story, and we're not
Yes.
here to judge anyone. To listen to your
Not at
story
all.
and to acknowledge how you feel and how you have felt. But I do think I must say this, that no one, the church or this message must be very clear that we would never advocate anyone, whether you're a woman or a man, to stay in any relationship where you are being
Abuse.
psychologically, physically, emotionally abused. We will never advocate that at all.
Mm.
And I know you may have done that in your journey, and maybe there have been cultural and family pressures, but
Mm,
we absolutely categorically
Mm.
would advocate zero tolerance for anyone, because it's safeguarding, and we would expect, we would not never advocate that
Yeah.
as a church or even as a community, and we
Mm.
would want to be. But thank you for sharing your journey, and you're still on that journey. You're still on that journey, and thank you, Priska. And
Thank you.
we've got a question for you afterwards around, how you've overcome those challenges. But we'll come back to you afterwards. I think we should move to Yvonne and just hear a little bit from Yvonne. So Yvonne's going to share with us some of her journey, her personal story as well. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Joyce. Yeah, it's just a bit of a continuation, just putting a bit more detail on to what I spoke about last month, really, which was my journey, which is a road that I hadn't travelled before, which was just caring for my father and being the uh, primary carer initially. Well, I still am, but initially taking on a lot of my dad's care needs and circumstances, managing that and being present there for him. I think what I acknowledged is that really, while my siblings were there, there was kind of like an unspoken expectation that me being the only single sibling and possibly living the nearest, then automatically quite a lot of that responsibility fell on me. It wasn't as if my siblings didn't want to know anything; they just thought, let Yvonne carry on. She's okay. She can manage most things, which is a common perception that people tend to have about me anyway. Yvonne can cope. So I guess in a way as well, I I accepted that and just carried on with what I needed to do for my dad. There were some quite difficult times because in the space of 2 months Dad would have probably been into hospital 4 or 5 times. And that actually included staying in for a few weeks as well. So it was quite difficult managing that, and there were some decisions, being the one that's in A&E with him, or the first port of call, the next of kin. Then there were some, I guess, conversations and decisions that were taking place that it was kind of difficult. Even just me being there and managing that conversation initially, I would always be able to make a call back to family later, but being there, it was kind of pressurizing. Attached to that really was also the other plates that I was juggling. We all juggle different plates and stuff like that. So for me, it was about changes in my work environment as well, and my responsibilities. My responsibilities grew. I was managing a number of teams now in various areas of the West Midlands. So I was often out of my home area, travelling away and so forth. So when I got calls, it could get quite difficult, because even my brother, who's like the next to take up the mantle, really was also working away. So I would always get the call. I was the first port of call for even the carers that were probably coming in the day, or the one that was resident with Dad for a few hours in the day. And so at times, you had to drop things. Sometimes I couldn't. So I was grateful. God bless other friends and family that stepped in that occasion. But working away, also ministering as well at various different places. You're managing that. I was studying as well, and part of that study necessitated me lecturing as well. So 1.5 jobs, studying as well, and just doing all that you had to do. Guilt kind of sat in at times for a number of reasons. Mum set quite a very high standard of maintaining the home, looking after Dad. So it was trying to keep up with that as well, and also not being able to be at services that, as a minister, people expected me to be at. And whilst I didn't necessarily have conversations around that with the local church, there was, for me, just a sense of, I hope they don't think that I'm just at home, disengaging, just not interested. But there were many times at one point where there was a number of call outs for Dad, and it was just really quite stressful and tiring. So the point came where there was a need, as I mentioned last month, to really just sit down and have a dialogue with my family. And that was difficult for me, because you like to think that you're managing everything well, and you didn't want to feel in any way, shape or form that you were failing in a core responsibility. Somebody that spent their life looking after you to a less or greater extent. Certainly I needed more care when I was younger. But they now rely on you, and you're unable to deliver. But it was a conversation that I had with my family, and thank God for who they are. They were, ready and waiting. They were just kind of like, whatever you need us to do, just ask. And so a part of that was really just being clear, coming to them, being clear, but dealing with me as well, and my emotion, my expectations around my own performance in what I'm meant to be doing, dealing with that, managing that whole emotionally, mentally. And at the time, I wasn't even considering any health issues that I necessarily was dealing with. There was a couple of things that really could have made a phone call to the GP and gone and had an appointment, but it was just, I haven't got time for that. So I left things like that aside. But speaking with my family was a great relief, and they were there to help and support in that way. And so for me, it was really an area of development for me, just acknowledging limitations, acknowledging impact, speaking up appropriately, sourcing as well. We know within our community, independence is very much celebrated and promoted. So feeling that you need to go to the council or any other resource that is there, you know, you don't want to be seen to be a burden. But I thank God as well for friends that certainly I'm not trying to make out that I'm the only person that has gone through this. Many of us, in fact, there's quite a lot of female carers that are out there. According to recent statistics, 58% of women are carers. Leaving the remaining 42 men, obviously, being men, 42% being men. And it's a case of 1.3 million people provide 50 hours of care. I want to thank God that we did have carers that were helping, and God bless them in all that they have done and are still doing. It's believed that 8.8 million adults are carers. So I'm certainly not trying to make out as though it's only me that's gone through it. But sometimes, on occasion, you can feel lonely. And it's good to know that there are so many other people there. A number of my friends that, you know, I'm really close with, they were also caring for their parents as well. And it was a great fact that they would share with me. And there was nothing that they wouldn't share, you know, because they wanted for me and my family to do what we could and what we can do for our dad. So they would share their experiences as well. And so that was a great help. There were people that I called on, I hadn't spoken to for years, but because of the work that they do, I knew that they could help me, and they were so willing to do that. And that was really helpful for me as well. And I think that it was just appreciating that many things that we deal with is multifaceted, and therefore, on that basis alone, we cannot manage all of it ourselves. And it's good just to acknowledge that. It's good to speak at the right time, have the appropriate conversations, because there will be some difficult conversations that you have to have because of the responsibility that you now take on. You know, I thank God, you know, for occasions when I could also just laugh at myself and some of the things my dad done in particular, but also at myself, and how I responded. You know, and I really thought that, oh my gosh, this is it, ringing up everybody. And you know, even at one point asking Dad, you feel that you're traveling? You feel that you feel that how you feeling right? Just in a whole panic of knowing what to do. And afterwards, I mean, Dad was very gracious about it. Bless him. He has got a sense of humour, thank God. But you know, afterwards, it's just good sometimes to be able to share that with friends, laugh at your own vulnerabilities, and move on. So I think really for me, it's been a real learning curve, and it's about sort of understanding personal intelligence as well, understanding me in a different capacity, in a different way, and it really helped me to grow. I think that's as much as can be said for now. Thank you, Sister Joyce. I think you're on mute, Sister Joyce.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, that personal dilemma of being you know, how much you give, you don't give. Sometimes it's really difficult, isn't it? But thank you for sharing. I am, you know, really conscious of time, and we've not started the dialogue, so I'm going to go straight over to Bridget. Bridget, you've got 10 minutes max. I'm watching the time, and we must have that dialogue. And I'm gonna bring our media roommate person in, and we're just gonna have the dialogue in the last 20 minutes. So, Bridget, over to you.
Thank you. I think for me, listening tonight from the women on the panel, Priska, Yvonne, Joanne, my synopsis from last month, I talked a lot about self-changing the narrative. And what's come over heavily and strongly with me is there are shadows and reflections of everything that these women have gone through, that I've been through. And I think for me, what tonight for me is in terms of my synopsis was the fact that I wasn't taking care of myself. In all of what was going on around me, I focused on my children. There was a point when my mum was ill before she passed. I focused on my mum. I'd get out of bed and go to work because it was something to focus on. And I focused on, you know, other things apart from myself. And I think the journey not being this way before is also about the point where you take a breath and you exhale. And in that in exhaling, you have to let things go. And I think Bridget struggled to let things go because I never spoke about things. It's difficult for me, and I'm actually quite emotional at the moment, to talk about those things that sat deep, but I had to keep going. And I think as women, we keep going. And there's a level of myself and my friends, we you know, my friend Heather, we talk about the weathering, where it wears you, and it wears you out. But somebody stopped me in my tracks and said, "Come on, Bridget, you look like you're walking as a woman who's been abused or a woman who's under depression." And I had to take a breath, and that impacted on my boys as well. There was a time where I do what I needed to do in the house, and my boys said to me, "Mum, we knew something was wrong because you do what you have to do, and then you go and just lie down in your bedroom." And I think there comes a point where we have to come to a self-realization: what do I need? Who do I need? And where do I go to get that level of support? And even in changing the narrative around yourself, and even from last month, you know, it was clearly said, well, God is affirmation. It is affirmation if you know how to apply it. Sometimes we have to know how to apply words of affirmation, God's words, and actually about those things that cause us pain and cause us stress. And I think, like Yvonne said, I can laugh at myself, and I can laugh at the things that I do and how I am, and that's part of the healing, and that's part of the process. You know, even and like I said, many of us have not been on certain journeys, but I'm very clear tonight that there are shadows and reflections of somebody's journey where we can actually say, hang on a minute, let's take that breath. And some of us are holding, even tonight, I believe some of us are holding our breath because we're in certain situations. And I'm encouraging you to just exhale, just let it out. And I am learning as part of my self-care, when the tears come, I'm struggling with it, when the tears come, to let them fall. Because again, that's part of our healing. And it's not a weakness, it's a strength to allow tears to come so we can actually begin that process of healing. Sister Joyce and Sister, I'm going to give you back some time. I'm not sure what questions are going to come my way. But I am now on a journey, married, but I'm now back single. You know, I was the only daughter, and my mum, who before she passed, would always introduce me. This is Bridget, my only girl child. So again, that was a pleasure. in terms of there was an expectation that Bridget, the only girl child, would get things done. And I've got three fantastic brothers who stepped up. But again, I felt a level of pressure to be there, to get things done. And I thank God for even the workforce and my children. You know, if my mum phoned work, my boss would make sure I phoned her back. And sometimes all she phoned was for a bottle of milk. But that bottle of milk meant come and see me. But when I got to the house, my brothers also bought milk. So she phoned all of us because she wanted to see us. And, you know, sometimes that journey of understanding and beginning to breathe. And I think as women, we need to be able to exhale. I know there's a film called Waiting to Exhale. I'm not necessarily saying we go down that road, but some of us need to begin, you know, single mothers, we need to breathe, you know, and I'm acknowledging all my friends, my brothers, my parents, all of them, you know, who've walked with me and who are still walking with me, who encouraged me to get my membership to go to the spa. I don't really go to spa, but I'm going to spa now. And I'm going in the pool and I'm going in the steam room. I get my nails done. I get my foot done. Yeah, I get my hair done. I even got the little lipstick tonight. Come on, brethren. Come on, ladies. It's time to take up the next level. 2020. Sister Joyce, back to you.
Oh, thank you, Bridget. Thank you. You know, Bridget, you're spot on. You know, if we don't look after ourselves, who's gonna do it?
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yes.
we've all gone through stuff where, you know, we've all been there where you don't feel like taking off the nightie, you don't feel like taking that dressing gown, or the dressing gown becomes your comfort blanket, you know, and you know, you don't feel like going out and all of that. But I think what I'm hearing from you, Bridget, tonight, and from all of us, it's time to do that exhale. Breathe it out, let it go. And, you know, I remember you, Bridget, at the retreat, you said, you talked about a pressure praise. You know, just
Yeah.
sometimes the pressure builds up and you gotta, you know, if you don't control how you let it out, it will just control you. And you talked about a pressure shout, you know. And I know some people say these women, they go to retreat and them all them do them just bawl, you know, and so forth. But I'm telling you, you know, that pressure shout is just something that just we need to do as women, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you're in a divorce position, you know, we all have those pressure points. And, you know, if anybody tells me that you don't get pressure points, I don't even believe you, because you're not living in a real world if that's the case. And, you know, everything that glitters isn't always gold. So, you know, you look, as you said, Sister Priska, you're looking and you're thinking, oh, they look all right, them good, everything going sweet with them. But how do you know? You know,
That's
that's why
right.
we must pray for our leaders, and pray, you know, we should be praying and supporting and putting those support mechanisms around. So, you know, I think there's been some pertinent and crucial things that have been said. And I just, before we get into the discussion, I'm going to ask Shamara to join us, who's been monitoring the social media as well. But two things I need to say. One, safeguarding adults and safeguarding children. Whatever we do, if we have any concerns around adult safeguarding, vulnerable adults, whether they be elderly or adults, safeguarding children. We have safeguarding leads in all of our churches, and we have safeguarding. We must give an alert for safeguarding, and we must safeguard our children, adults, and we will not tolerate any violence if we know about it. So I must get that message across. No expectation, and we don't relationship, whether you're married, whether you're not married, whether you're young and you met someone and you're in a relationship and they begin to abuse you emotionally, physically, zero tolerance.
Yeah.
No matter what they say to you, how nice you look, whatever, zero tolerance. Okay? And there's something about, I know, because we did have someone on our first series that talked about domestic abuse training and so forth, and if there's more that we need to do about that, then let us do it. And as for remarriage, well, you know, yeah, what do I say on that remarriage issue? But there are circumstances where, you know, women and men, it's a personal thing, do get remarried. It's not for us to dictate and to say you can or you can't, and in these circumstances, that circumstance, every circumstance is unique. And that's a personal conversation to have. And if you have trusted, respected leaders to have that conversation, to have that discussion, and to work that through for your individual circumstance. So I just wanted to make that clear. Welcome, Shamara. I know you've been monitoring the social media. We've got a few questions. We've got a few questions that we want to ask, and then, you know, we'll come over to you for any questions that you've got from the media room. We might have to cut the questions down, but if we, I'm just conscious where we think we need to draw out a couple of questions, but I'll turn over to you to ask the first question, Alni.
Right, thank you, Joyce, and thank you, Joanne, for sharing your story. It's been very touching. I was really moved by your story, and you are a very strong woman. You are, for bringing up 4 sons, and I'm sure that you are feeling proud of them today. Just one question I would like to ask, Joanne. What part did your faith play in getting through, you know, what you shared? And what advice would you give to parents with children with autism or learning disability? What part did your faith play in getting through?
Well, it wasn't until 2003 that I became saved, but during the unauthorized annual leave, I did see the hand of God working through my life. I remember a point where, you know, I had son number 4. My relationship was in tatters. And I remember I was holding son number 4 in my arms, and I was looking out the window, and I just looked up to the sky, and my heart was just saying, what am I going to do? Because I felt as though I was going to have a nervous breakdown. I really did. And I just heard Jesus be a fence all around me every day. Lord, I want you to protect me as I travel along life's way. Lord, I know you can. Lord, I know you will fight my battles if I just keep still. Be a fence all around me every day. And that song kept me in my sinful state until I got saved. So I always saw the hand of God, and my mum and my dad were praying people, and they prayed and covered me and stood in the gap until I saw sense. Advice to parents is to, as I said, celebrate the small steps, and don't compare your child to another child. Don't do that, because you're setting yourself up to fail, and it'll just make you miserable and the child miserable. So celebrate everything that they do, because what you're doing is building up their self-esteem, and then it will make them fearless, and it will make them feel that they can do anything. And that's what you want. You want to raise well-balanced, independent young men and young women. disabilities or not, they can achieve. I really do believe that each child can achieve whatever they want to put their mind to, and that's what you're there to do, to help them along that way. So yeah, that's what I would say. And the schools, support them at school. Be a nuisance in the sweetest possible way. Make sure that the teachers know you. Attend as much activities at school if it's possible, or get people to come and take your place if you're unable to, but make sure that you're a visible presence at school.
Thank you, John. Celebrate and also get involved with the school. And thank you very much again for sharing your story. Over to you, Joyce.
Thank you. Next question's to Yvonne. So, Yvonne, you said 1 in 8 adults, around 6.5 million people are carers, and 58% of those people are women, and 42% are men, and 1.3 million people provide over 50 hours of care per week. And just thinking about our communities, we're speaking to people that may be of faith in church, but we're speaking to people of no faith as well who may be watching. But, what advice would you, if you had to give like 2 or 3 pieces of advice to carers, what would you say? I know you said one, which was get help. But is there anything that you would advise that you would give to people out there?
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's important that we, in terms of getting help, it's involve those that are there to help you. So speak to your local council. They're there to assess both your needs and the need of the person that is needing the care, and that's really, really important. And get a community of support around you as well. People that will encourage you, support you, laugh with you, cry with you if needs be, but certainly laugh and encourage you and engage with you. I think Bridget said it superbly. It is a matter that you have to ensure that your own health is a primary concern for you as well. If you're unwell, it limits what you can do for someone else, and I just feel that that's a real key issue. Really, just understanding that we're not Wonder
Thank
Women,
you.
and
Yeah,
God also knows our limitation and our circumstances. So we must work within that, and not be scared to work within that.
yeah. Can really relate to that Wonder Woman and superhero business, because we do think that we are, and that's when we break down, because we're not reaching out for help. But some of our elder parents don't want help, even when you say, the help is available. That's, I don't know, that can be one of the challenges as well. Um, we've got a couple more questions, but I just wonder, before we take the questions to the panel, can we just bring Shamara in around any questions that's come from the audience, because we want to make sure that any audience questions we actually take as well.
Hi everybody, hi panel, and hi to all our amazing viewers on Connect Live. We have a question to our panel, which is, do you think there is pressure, particularly as women, to be perfect and to keep on going? And if so, where do you think that comes from?
Bridget,
Yeah.
do you want to take that one?
Yes, there is pressure. Whether it's real or perceived, there is pressure. And I think there's a pattern of pressure sometimes from our elders who've kept going, you know, and you know, I can only reflect on my mum who kept going as long as she could. You know, when she retired, she then became a childminder to look after children. So she went and educated herself. So she didn't actually retire. She just went into another level of work and kept going. And I think as women, and I will sit here and say, particularly as black women, it seems to be ingrained in us that we should be able to do everything and be everywhere for everyone. And if we're not, then I can only look at myself and say there's a level of imposed guilt that I'm not able to. And sometimes that then is borne out by the narrative around you. You know, oh, Sister Bridget, there was my mum had to go into a home for rehabilitation in terms of getting to learn to walk again. But what I heard was Bridget put her mum in a home. How can she do that to her mother? She put her mother in, and I'm like, no, that wasn't the story. But then there's levels of guilt when you do things if you can't keep your parents at home, you know, if you're not able to look after the house, and you know, there were times when I didn't invite anybody to my house because in my head it didn't look the way my mum's house looked. I would say to my mom, how do you keep your fridge so full? How come there's only you one and every shelf is full? And I couldn't do that. And so there's levels of trying to maintain something that's not real. And like I said before, when I became real with myself, it was like, this is Bridget. Love it or don't love me. This is how it is. You know what I mean? If you come to the house and I got to put the shoes upstairs, I'm putting the shoes upstairs because everything can't be the way that this perfect world expects us to be. Especially, and I will say again, especially as black women, the legacy that we have is to keep
Yeah.
going, is to make sure
Yes.
everything's all right, and that's where that pressure
Yes.
shouts come. You know, back the women, and I can only recall those women back in slavery days in the field. You know, sometimes they made a sound because they couldn't allow the slave masters to know they were having a baby because that baby would have been taken away. So it wasn't, you know, the labor we can have today, but there was a sound. And sometimes as women, we need to
Internalizing.
exhale, yeah, and make that sound. So yeah, don't be perfect. Your perfect isn't my perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your perfect isn't my perfect. So go out and buy the
Absolutely.
clothes you don't have to iron, so you don't have to have, you know, put them on. You know what I mean? Don't overstress yourself. Put them on. You know, get the £10 meals and put them in the oven if you're tired of cooking. Don't if you're not a gardener, don't be out there potting around in the garden because that's not what you do. You know what I mean? I don't do gardens. My children don't do garden. I've got a gardener, so my garden looks good. My sister Bridget, your garden looks good. Yes, it does. Yes, thank you. Yes, it does. You know, sometimes do not put that additional pressure on yourself to be who you
Yeah.
are not. You know, the one time I tried to grow an aloe plant, it died. So I know I'm not no green finger person. So let me get somebody in who's green finger. So yeah, yes, we do have a perception that we need to be perfect, and it's not real. Shamara, you look fantastic tonight, but that's
Yes.
not that's not, and I'm not taking away from that, but that's not Bridget. If I put all of that, my hands, my clothes, because I know myself, I touch my face, I can't do all of that, but I look perfect for Bridget. Yeah, does that make
Yes.
sense? I
Yes,
look
deep.
Yeah.
perfect for me, not for anybody else, for me. I hope that's answered
Strength.
somewhat.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Any more? I'm conscious of time and any more questions? Just one more question, audience question, and then we're going to wrap up.
We've got one more. Everybody shared their story this evening, and the question is: do you think that your story or what your experience that you went through was necessary for your ministry and
Ooh.
to reach others?
Whoa.
I'm not answering that one.
Wow. Okay.
Well,
Annie?
I think I'll say a bit about it. I think
Yeah.
it's necessary. In the first place, talking about divorce is not easy. Talking about domestic violence is not easy. But coming out to talk about it, you want to reach out to other people. So that's ministry. You want to reach out. You want for someone to know they are not on their own and they are not the only ones suffering from whatever is happening. It happened to other women and they've overcome it. So it is helpful to myself and to other people that I can easily support because I've got the experience, I've been there. Now I can talk and support other women in similar situations. So it's ministry. Thank you.
Let's go. Thank you for sharing that. Last word, Yvonne, you were going to say something quickly?
Yeah, I think Sister Priska has said it in so much as it is, as it's part of our life, it
Yeah,
informs our ministry, it aids our ministry, it
yeah,
enables us in some way to minister out of that, to connect with others as well
that's right.
through that. And so we are able to share on that personal level. Most people that
Yes.
know I'm a preacher, I'm a teacher, but there are times where the ministry comes down to actually talking about practicalities,
That's
experiences
right.
in life. And it's through that that people can see Christ through you and in you and themselves be
That's
encouraged.
right.
That's what I would say.
Thank you so much. We have actually run out of time. Can you all hear me? We have actually run out of time. It's 21:27. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Shamara. Thank for all those who have been, who have tuned in tonight. Every journey, every story, is for a purpose. And I know that someone that's listened today has been blessed, has listened to the story. If Errol could bring us back to just myself and Alni, thank you, panelists. We'll speak shortly, and we're just going to close out. Thank you very much. We're just going to, Alni, what a session today.
Yeah.
What a session. What a session.
Very moving stories. These are real live stories, and I'm so thankful for this Connect series that it allows our women to share their stories. As you said earlier, Joyce, they're not reading somebody else. They're not talking about somebody else's story. They're giving their story, and they're doing that. They are vulnerable because what they want to do is to help others, and that is the whole idea of the series, for us to help other women who are in similar situations. So I just think it was amazing, and I'm really moved by it, Joyce.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the other thing to mention is that when we share on Connect, we're encouraging women to form Connect groups.
Yeah,
And one of the things that we've talked about since our last series is setting up a Connect group for women who are going through divorce. When you're on that journey, it
yeah,
can be painful, sometimes it can be lonely. And as we've heard Priska say, you don't know what's been going on behind closed doors. You don't know the situation. And there is counselling that's needed, there's support that's needed. And so we are in the process of having some discussions about how we set up some Connect groups for people where they could come a safe space to talk, to share, to pray, and to get some mutual advice. So that's one of the things that we're doing. And, if you've heard anything today and you feel, right, you know what, I could do something here, that I know of people who are going through a particular circumstance. Why not think about setting up a connect group? Why not just start by reaching out and connecting with that individual and start having a dialogue, checking in, see how they're doing, and seeing how we can connect and how we can support. And we want to support marriages as well. We want to support we want to look at how we can enhance and have healthy marriages. We want to do that as well. And I know we've done some work around that, and there's more for us to do. So we're not perfect. We're on a journey, but I just want to thank you all for tuning in tonight and for connecting with us tonight. And we're going to close out with that same song, I Am Not Alone. I want you out there that's listening, just remember, you are not alone. Last word to you, Sister Alni, before we send out that song.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yes, I agree with you that
we are not alone.
We are not alone.
And what we would like for you to do, if you need further support, you can contact us via the website, which has got a prophecy, and we will be able to help you. So thank you for listening, and God bless you all.
God bless you.
The Lord is my shepherd. He goes before me, defender behind me. I won't fear. I'm filled with anointing. My cup's overflowing. No weapon can harm me. I won't fear. Hallelujah, I am not alone. He is my comfort, always holds me close. He always guides me through mountains and valleys. His joy is refreshing, restores my soul. Mercy and goodness gives me assurance that I'll see His glory face to face, and we sing hallelujah, I am not alone. He is my does. Yes, it does. Hallelujah. I am not alone. He's my comfort, always holds me close. Your spirit lives within me, so I could walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so I can walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so I could walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so we can walk in your peace. Your spirit lives within me, my victory, my victory. Your spirit lives within me, so